Welcome back to our series, Cool Careers in Sports. The more we do these interviews, the more we discover really cool people doing really cool things. Like Matt Woods, part of the Motor Preferences Experts team. If you've been watching college softball, you might have seen the colored tape on the catcher's chest protectors, or if you're on social media, you might see the side-by-side mechanical case studies of how athletes move. These are all from the team at Motor Preferences who are revolutionizing athletic development by unlocking each individual's potential by training to their unique physical strengths and movement patterns. A great analogy is that motor preferences is your unique body language, the way your body naturally wants to move. I was so excited to connect with Matt that I have invited them to speak at our Fearless Warrior retreat in July. And what better way than to intro them and give you all a sneak peek on the pod. Matt, welcome to the Fearless Warrior podcast.
Fired up to be on the podcast, fired up to be with Coach AB today, and fired up to get to that summit and that talk in the summer and meet so many people that are part of your organization and just keep spreading the word about motor preferences and everything about it. So I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, so I have to take it back. This would have been in 2023. We have been running our retreat for the past 5 years, and we had a couple of college guest speakers, and I had asked them about the tape on the chest protector. So let's, without divulging all of motor preferences, there's so much that goes into it that we probably can't even cover on the podcast. You certify coaches, you're working with college teams, you work with individual athletes. You guys are working with hitting instructors, pitching instructors. What is motor preferences? Can you just dive in a little bit and tell people what you do?
Yeah, 100%. Motor preferences is the natural ranges of motion that everybody prefers to work in. And the best example, and I'll have Coach AB, I'll have you do it on the podcast. If you cross your arms one way, go ahead. Just go ahead and cross your arms. Takes you no thought to do it. If you look down, your left arm's over your right arm. Some people listening, when you say cross your arms, they might have their right arm over their left arm. Now, no one cares how you cross your arms, but all of a sudden we care about how it looks when we pitch, when we throw, when we swing, when we field. Now try to cross them the other way, coach. You can still do it, but it
It's
takes a lot of
weird.
time, energy, and effort, a little bit more energy, a little bit more effort to do. Now, for us, we want to give these athletes, we want to help them understand who they are and what they do unconsciously and what takes limited amount of energy so that they can focus on what's important. If I'm a hitter, I want to focus on my timing and my swing decisions. If I'm a pitcher, I want to focus on pitch execution, my plan against these hitters coming up. We don't want to have to waste energy on trying to repeat something or fit into someone's model that maybe doesn't apply to us. We always say everybody out there is right for the right person. And now let's find the system, let's find the cue that fits the athlete in front of us rather than doing it the other way around where I have this model and I'm going to make the athlete fit to that. So that's like a broad feel for those listening. You can do the cross your arms, you can do fold your hands and interlock them the other way. You can do it, and those are your preferences, and no one coaches you out of those. But all of a sudden, when we get into sport, preferences try to get taken away from us.
I think you've tapped into a very controversial thing. If you spend 30 seconds on social media, my algorithm is full of softball coaches who I love dearly.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes there's that war of I'm right, you're wrong, or this is my methodology. And even in some of the Facebook groups of open or closed, or we were taught to slam the door. Think
Yeah.
about men's fast pitch. This is fascinating. And I selfishly have a question for you on this is when you talk about limited amount of effort, what that makes me think about is flow state on the
Hmm.
mental side of the game. We get it wrong often where parents and coaches, we want our athletes to focus. Dads say it all the time, focus, focus. And I think sometimes what we forget to realize is that when you're in the flow state, the reason the flow state is so hard to replicate is because it's not focusing. It's not forced. It's a state of mind that when you're in a limited amount of effort physically, you can unlock that flow state mentally. It connects,
100%.
Matt. It connects.
100%. 100%. It's like I always start talking to people. It's like we all have almost an iPhone battery over our heads. And what are we going to use our battery on that day? We want to use it on the things that are important. So if I'm like you said, that flow state mentally. I'm worrying about if I don't get a hit in my next AB, what's my average going to turn to? Or if I make another error, am I going to get pulled? Think about how much battery is being drained and it's taking away from what actually is important. So it can be from the mental side, like you said, and then it can also be from the physical side. If I'm trying to perform something, whether it's a pitching motion or a hitting motion that requires myself more energy, it's taking away from that energy being allocated to things that are important. So 100%, totally couldn't be more on board with that. And to your point about all the coaches online that they disagree, they agree. I think that's the definition of preferences right there. There are so many people in business teaching different models, and that's because they've all had success with players, and then they've also all had not so much success with players. So everybody out there who's arguing good, bad, or indifferent, totally great for the game. We should have dialogue. We should talk about things. We should understand different people's point of views because we all see the world differently. But it's also a testament that preferences are a real thing if there are so many models out there because they've had so much success. If there was only one model, then all of these other models out here wouldn't have business. So,
Or it would make things radically simple.
yes, yes,
But
exactly.
it's not the case. It's not black and white. I can hear my mom saying, AB, it's not black and white. There's a lot of gray
Unfortunately
area.
not. Unfortunately, but fortunately not. It's not black and white. It's a lot of gray in there.
You also mentioned another, and this is so good because when we talk about the mindset and mental performance, we could give a kid all the mental performance tools in the world, but they're still only going to prefer 1 to 2 mental skills that work really great for them. And I'll use visualization as an example. Some kids have the ability to visualize, and some kids have a preference where visualization almost overcomplicates it in their brain. You said the word cue. Can you talk about cues?
Yeah, cues are what is going to make sense to your brain. In order to move, you don't press a button in the side of your body to start walking. No, your brain tells your body to start walking. You want to walk, you go and walk. So if we're feeding the brain the right cues, then the movement is then going to show a little bit better. So it's that aha moment. That makes sense to me. And now you can give anybody any type of cue. Doesn't mean they won't understand the cue, but when it fits them, that's when they get that aha moment that I actually can feel this. And that's a lot of the time when we're talking with coaches are what we call talking to their subconscious profile. And what that means is what cues made sense to them in their career, what sensations make sense, what drills they did, they pass along. And that 100% agree. I do that as well. But now being able to understand, okay, if this is someone in front of me that doesn't think like me or doesn't move like me, then maybe those drills, cues, and sensations aren't for them. And being able to teach to the opposite mover of you is so huge. To your point, can we get cues that help bridge the gap between real versus feel? We talk about it all the time. What's really happening and what you're feeling that is happening. And when we give a good cue, now a player is feeling exactly how they're moving rather than, okay, I understand that, but my real versus feel is way off here. So how can we get the brain to understand, oh, okay, that makes sense, and then be able to then put it into action?
This is so good. And I feel a little called out because I'm immediately thinking about when I'm on calls with athletes one on one.
Yeah.
One of the things that is so tempting is the cues that they're coming up with. And when we talk about cues as it pertains to self talk, they're coming up with keywords on how they need to move
Hmm.
physically. And in my world, I'm not there physically with the athlete. All of my
Hmm.
clients are virtual. And what's
Hmm.
so tempting is I want to feed them the cue.
Yeah.
I want to tell them, here's what I would say. And I can't. And that is such an Achilles heel or a kryptonite for me as a coach, is because if I can get an athlete to say it in their words, they're going to have a higher likelihood of remembering it, a higher likelihood of using it. And like you're saying, it's going to fit their subconscious profile versus my subconscious profile.
100%. And that doesn't take away, this isn't to take away your own experience, Coach AB, or any coach's experience. Like, that experience is so valuable. What you went through, the trials and tribulations, the hurdles that you had to overcome is so valuable to pass on to this younger generation. So that this by no means like your experience is invaluable. It's probably the most valuable thing because there are hurdles that you went through that you know how you can overcome them. So being able to pass that down to players is huge. But then having the ability to take a step back and understand, okay, if this cue isn't working, I can go to this one. And even though it doesn't make sense to me, it might make sense to them. So having that broader scope of outlook in a sense, and understanding that we all move differently. We all like different Netflix shows. We all like different types of foods. And then when we play sports, we all move differently and we also have different cues. So having that broad awareness of that is huge.
I love that. I'm going to key in on that. We're just going to keep rolling on this. I know this is cool careers in sport, but I can't talk about your career unless we know what it is Matt does with your team. So when you say move differently, you guys have really created kind of a language around profiles. Are they called
Yes.
profiles?
Yep.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. I think when you're trying to communicate anything and have a conversation about anything, you have to label the science. So we have a Swiss lab that has 9 PhDs on site, and they've tested over 50,000 athletes. How this got to the US, they're primarily working with Premier League soccer teams, track and field, a lot of European sports. David Jeunesse, who's our director of performance, is from France and was introduced to motor preferences in Volendam because his son has autism and he wanted to help him out. He wanted to help his brain manage everything that's going on and allow him to function a little bit more seamlessly in our society. David has a background. He was actually a pitcher when he was younger, back in high school and college. And one day during COVID, Coach Swope, who's the head coach at Maryland now, was tweeting out some drills he was doing with his players. And David comments, "Hey, what if he's this and this?" And to Swope's credit, which I do give him a lot of credit, no ego, said, "Hop on a Zoom in 5 minutes." And they got on a Zoom and basically talked about this. And Swope went and talked to MLB orgs. He went and talked to other coaches that he knows and trusted in, and no one had ever heard about this. So essentially, that's how motor preferences came to the US and North America, and specifically has started in baseball and softball. But what we've done from a vocabulary standpoint is we have to label the science in order to communicate it so that people can understand. So we've it's not a label, but it's a way to communicate the science of, okay, this person walks more on the ball of their feet. They prefer a little bit more rhythm. They're a little bit more bouncy. They have a little bit more quick twitch. These are more of our aerial type movers. And then you have your terrestrials, which are more heel walkers. They're more grounded. They need to get into their legs. They might be more of a start and stop type of player. And those players we call more of a terrestrial mover. And that's like the foundational layer of balance for us, is how people walk and jog. And I say this all the time. My girlfriend ran in a Nashville marathon over a year ago, and it was a nightmare trying to watch all these different type of runners out there. So you have these people that are really heel dominant, they heel strike, and then there's other people that bounce. It's like kangaroos and elephants. And when you start to see it, you're like, oh
You
my
can't
God,
unsee
you
it.
can't unsee it. It's a blessing and a curse at the end of the day. So we've been able to communicate the science and use the foundational layer of balance, and then it adds on to that. Can my player handle hip shoulder separation? Does my player like their hands away or closer to them? And all we're trying to do is limit some of the overuse injuries that we see in the game now. And the biggest sign of what we call being out of profile or being outside of their natural ranges of motion you prefer to work in is stiffness and pain. It doesn't have
Mm.
to be no pain, no gain in our game. It's okay, are you having pain? Okay, that's a sign that your body is using a lot of energy to try to repeat a move, and it's telling you, hey, I don't like this. My body doesn't want this. So essentially, that's what we've done with the science, able to communicate it. We've labeled some terms, and I've had really good dialogue with the softball and baseball industry over the last 3 to 4 years.
Oh, we love it. And you're working with my Huskers. So I'm
That's
all
right.
for it. So here's a perfect example. And I want to give this case study for the listeners, especially since we're going to start to dive more into this with
Mhm.
Fearless Warrior.
Yeah.
So a perfect example of this, and you'll have to correct me if I get this wrong, but
Yes.
this past weekend, watching OSU versus Nebraska at Supers, we're
Hmm.
sitting in the stands, and all weekend I had the ability to connect with some of my athletes who are here locally.
Yeah.
And one of my athletes made the comment, when you watch Ruby Malin pitch, it almost looks like she's not trying. And I immediately thought of you. And she's a lateral mover. Is that right?
Yep.
She's creating this ground force. And another great example of this is Nija, where, and again, I would consider myself to be an aerial, hardcore
Hmm.
aerial, like Jordy. And when I think about this, and I'll let you take the mic because I feel like I'm butchering this, but
No.
here you have two incredible pitchers who are producing a very similar result, very similar velocity. And Ruby drives off the mound, and before you know it, her foot's down and the ball is gone. And it looks effortless. She's
Hmm.
really not pushing. She's not pushing hard, but she's producing great results. And then
Hmm.
you look at Jordy, And Jordy is really pushing. She's driving, she's up, she's getting that the extension in the leg. And it looks more efforted, but it's rhythmy, it's flowy.
Yes.
Two completely different pitchers. But for those of you that don't know, here in Nebraska, same pitching coach, same foundations. So, Matt, I am nerding out. Please, where do you want to take this?
100%. I think the best point is that they have the same pitching coach, and I think the biggest thing is people haven't known about motor preferences up until now. So you can still be really good without knowing your preferences, but through trial and error, you've probably found things like, yep, that makes sense to me. Yep, I'm going to stick with that drill every day because I feel good there. Yep, that cue has always made sense to me. People find out their preferences. We know that athletes use about 60 to 70% of their preferences. And a lot of times when we're working with athletes, it's now giving them, why has this cue worked? Why has this drill worked? And now they're becoming their own best self coach. And for the coaches who have never heard about motor preferences but have been so successful for so long is because they've given their athletes the freedom to move. If this works for you and you can execute and you can last all, okay, yeah, let's do this. So their pitching coach, I've never met him, but can only imagine how great of a pitching coach he is from an observational lens to be able to produce so much great talent and then to look so stylistically different. And I think that's the biggest testament that we want to work towards is there should be no pitching coach, there should be no hitting coach, there should be no any coach that you can look at someone from a stylistic standpoint and say, oh, they must work with them. No, it should be like, oh, they're a really good player, they must work with them rather than a style. So we all know everybody moves differently. So within that, you see Ruby and Jordy move almost completely opposite, where Ruby's more grounded, where Jordy, her first move is up and then out, where Ruby's just straight out. Even you can see it on your own Nebraska team between Alexis Jensen and Jordy there too. That's two almost polar opposite examples of how they're creating force, where Jordy is more bouncy. She's going to have more less ground contact time, more time in the air, where Alexis Jensen is going to be on the ground longer and she's going to create that ground force through her lower half. So you starting to understand how these people produce movement. Now your cues can match up with that. And we might give Jordy some more upper body cues, where Alexis, we might talk about her lower half a little bit more. We also know that an aerial type of mover is more futuristic. They're building their present in the future. So we might give, hey, hit a double here. Hey, I need you to hit this location here, where Alexis or someone that's more of a terrestrial mover, they're building their present from their past. So we might talk about feeling their load. We might show them more video. Hey, when you were good, this is what you were doing. So understanding how people create movement, we also start to understand how they process information.
Now, full disclosure, Matt and I have talked about this. I will be getting certified. I just haven't had time because I've been busy watching softball.
No doubt.
So, again, I want to take this conversation one step further, because a lot of what you're talking about is a parallel to what we teach inside Fearless Warriors. And one of the things that we do is we help them understand how their mind works. And we do that through a color personality test. Now, there's lots of tests out there we could do. I had talked to you about Myers-Briggs, the MBTI. Gallup is an extensive one. I can't buy all of our girls a book. And so we have to go with the true colors. And I think what the beautiful thing about this is, when you have a word like terrestrials and aerials, and you're saying we're helping to label the science doesn't matter if your kid doesn't remember it, or if coaches don't remember it. And so I think when you say that a terrestrial is focused on the past or uses the past to predict where they need to go, and aerials are focused on the future, immediately I'm looking at this of, I would love to just get all of my athletes typed and find out, I bet my oranges and my golds are aerials, and my terrestrials are more my green blues. And then I think about, I know Jordy and Ruby's color profiles matches. And to me, what's really cool about this is that it's not a separation, it's an integration. You have to have the mental, you have to have the physical. This is so cool, Matt.
It's true individualization. Like how we always say, if we can help one player a day, optimize them, whatever that may be, give them some insight, give them some mental freedom of, I've been told not to do this my whole career, but it feels good. Giving someone that freedom, if it's one athlete a day, that is such a win. And there's true player development and true player individualization. We have to understand the athlete in front of us. I can't go into a session today and be like, oh, I'm teaching this. I have to understand, what have they been working on? What have they learned for their whole life? What does their injury history look like? We need to understand the context of the athlete in front of us in order to help them the most because they know themselves better than anybody else. So we can't come in here and say, this is what I'm going to do, or I've seen this before, and it's truly individual to the player. And if we can understand players a little bit deeper, then we're going to have a higher success rate with them. And ultimately, whatever that is, I think the biggest misconception is MP doesn't change talent. It optimizes them for whatever that may be. Maybe it's a high school player that hasn't been playing as much and now she's playing every day. Or it's a college player that was hitting 250, maybe now they're hitting 310. It's the talent doesn't change, but can we optimize you? And then at the end of the day, as coaches and as players, you can put your head on the pillow and know you did everything possible to get the most out of yourself, and that's totally fine.
I think it goes back to the beginning. You're giving them the gift of their brain back, where they're spending less of their battery on the physical side, which frees up the ability to make better pitch selections, to enjoy the game, to be in that
Mhm.
flow state. You're giving them
Mhm.
their battery back. Ugh, so good.
It parlays like exactly into what you do. And what I've learned from my own college career is there are so many talented players out there, but what really separates the good players from, or the great players from the good players, is how mentally strong they are, like how in control of themselves are, how well do they know themselves, how well of a self-coach they are to themselves, that in the big moment they know things that they can go to get them back on track. And so if we can start giving more time allocated to working on the mental game and helping these athletes sustain a full season through the ups and downs and what comes with that, now we're getting a really good athlete who's really in control of their process and is really sure of who they are, and that's all we want.
Absolutely. I love that so much. Timestamp that one. That's a nugget right there. So, what does a day in the life look like? I know we haven't really touched on your career, but the whole point of this is to highlight, if an athlete wants to stay involved. A lot of my athletes that I've coached are going into, they want to stay involved with athletic training, physical therapy.
Yep.
We've highlighted sports photography and broadcasting. This is a
Yep.
whole nother category, Matt. What advice would you give to somebody who's interested in this, wants to study this? Your career, did you ever imagine that you'd be doing this?
No, I would never imagine. I would say the advice that I would give to anybody who's interested is we get along with avid learners. Avid learners are right up our alley because even I'm working for the company and I still learn something new every day because there are so many different rabbit holes and nuances that I can go down. So I think the biggest thing is being open-minded and being an avid learner and being able to take in a bunch of information and just see the information as it is. It doesn't have to be cookie cutter. It doesn't have to be set in stone, but understanding the information, how that all interlocks. For me, my degree was, my undergrad was in marketing. I went to Bryant University for 4 years, and then I was fortunate enough, COVID was my sophomore year, and I got an extra year eligibility, and I ended up going to the University of Maryland. And on my recruiting visit, I was ready to go to North Carolina. It was my dream school, and Coach Swope sat me down and started talking about motor preferences, and I was like, I can't not know what this guy has to say. And I ended up going to Maryland, and it was the best
Oh,
decision I ever made. And for me as an athlete, I felt it. I was mentally free. I was someone that wanted to chase every rabbit hole. I wanted to try every drill. I was watching MLB Network every morning. Maybe this is the drill that's going to make me a really good player. But then once I understood who I was and the ranges of motion I prefer to work in, I already knew that about myself, but then I was able to just sift through information so much cleaner. Oh, this makes sense for me. Oh, this doesn't, no problem. I know it's going to make sense for someone else. So I think being able as a player at first to experience the mental freedom, I knew immediately there I want to pass this along to as many people as possible. So then that's how I got involved with the company, and I've been now taking some kinesiology stuff, now I'm as an avid learner learning that on the back end too. So I think any advice is just be open-minded and be addicted to learning new information.
so good. So good, Matt. You mentioned you were coming back out to Nebraska, so I can't wait to see you in Nebraska. What advice would you give on the career side other than being an avid learner, which that is just a theme that we've been hearing on the podcast is offer up if there's an opportunity, serve, take the chance. You were in the right place at the right time, but not without the opportunity for you to dive deeper and
Hmm.
learn. What advice would you give to past Matt? Think about all these athletes out here that are now discovering we didn't have these tools. And I'm the same way. I discovered that I was using mental performance tools before we knew that they were mental performance tools. So, what advice would you give for the listeners that are maybe preteen or teen. Think about that version of Matt. What would he need to hear?
That Matt would need to hear that Matt isn't just a baseball player. There's separation between Matt, the baseball player, and Matt, the person. And I think I discovered that later in my career when I was able to separate. When I was at the field, I was go mode. I was Matt, the baseball player. But as soon as I was off of it, those who came to support me, go out to dinner with them, those my friends that I needed to connect with, great. I had homework, let's go do it. I was not seen or I was not evaluated in life as a baseball player. And once I was able to separate the two, I actually began playing way better. So all of these softball players, all of the baseball players that are out there, you have your time to put in your work. You have your dreams that you want to achieve. 100% agree. But also take time to be yourself outside of that sport. Have different hobbies, connect with friends, be present. I think be present and separate the athlete and then yourself as a human being is what I would tell my past self.
Mic drop. It's everything, right?
Mhm.
It's the foundation of playing free. So good.
100%.
Matt, I can't wait to meet you in person. And you just have such a cool career. We're going to stay connected. What is the best place for parents? Any links? We didn't even really talk about this before we
Yeah.
hit record.
Yeah.
We're obviously working on getting resources put together for the retreaters, but for the
Yep.
listeners that may not get to come to the retreat,
Yep.
where can we send them? Anything you mentioned today, we'll make sure we put the link in the show notes.
100%. Yeah. Go to our website, which is www.motorpreferencesexperts.com. There you're going to find links to, we have educational e-courses, how to start to understand aerial terrestrial. We have our book that's linked to Amazon. That's a really kind of debrief of how it came to North America and our two co-founders, Matt Swope and David Genest, and how it all started. And then we're going to have some more in-person events coming up this year. In a month, we're going down to the Gasso facility that has become our first softball affiliate flagship center, where we're going to basically house all MPE softball for the foreseeable future. So we have coaches clinics there. We're going to have player camps there, and we're going to keep popping up as we keep expanding, both tailoring coach education as well as player education. So yeah, follow us on our socials. It's Motor Preferences Experts, and please do not hesitate to DM us. Shoot me an email directly. My email's directly on the website. Please ask as many questions as you want. There is no question that is dumb or anything that we won't answer. Please ask away.
It's been so great to connect with you, and I can't wait to see where we take this. So grateful for you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on and look forward to connecting more in the future.